Once you've completed a full assessment of every patient and the ailments that they have, it is now time for you to determine what your plan is going to be. How will you treat these patients, and what's the best course of action for those patients? In the backcountry, getting paramedics to where you are, it's never that simple. Often requires a helicopter or a boat, and they may not be able to do it unless they have special training, and the weather conditions may not be favorable for them to come at all. Evacuating in the backcountry is a very physically demanding, resource demanding, time consuming process. So before initiating any kind of evacuation, there's a lot of things that need to be done in order to make sure that all the things line up to have a successful evacuation. One of the biggest differences between urban first aid and wilderness first aid is that in wilderness first aid, sooner or later you will have to move the patient, even if you suspect a spinal injury. If your victim's airway is compromised, or if you're in dangerous terrain, you'll have to move your victim really rather quickly. If, for example, you're on the snow, you just can't leave them there for hours. They're gonna get cold no matter how good your hypothermia wrap is. And as much as possible, move them as carefully and gently as possible. However, depending on how critical the situation is, sometimes the only option is to move them rather unceremoniously. Because evacuations may take hours, if not days, one thing that we have to keep in mind is long-term care. Every situation is going to be different, and so what I'm going to present to you is a series of questions to help prompt your thinking to make sure that your group, yourself, and your victim are all taken care of. So firstly, how is the victim doing? Are they warm? Are they comfortable? Can you do something to make them more comfortable? Have they eaten recently? Have they had something to drink? Do they need to go to the bathroom? How's the group doing? Do they need some moral support? Do they need to have a discussion about what just happened? If you're looking for things to do, checking bandages is always a great thing, making sure the distal CSMs are still good, making sure that there's no infection that's starting to develop. You can always take another set of vitals just to compare it to previous sets of vitals. Make sure you record any new findings as you come across them. If certain things are deteriorating while other things are improving, change those priorities. And as new information comes, do you need to change your plan? And if you are evacuating, how's that going? Take a second, check in with everyone, see how everyone's doing. Everything that happens needs to be recorded so that the paramedics and doctors can have as much information about the events as possible in order to give the best care possible. If you need somewhere to write this all down, the back of your SOAP note is a great place to just jot down all these notes throughout the whole thing. Before deciding whether or not to evacuate, consider the following things. What's the condition of the patient? Is it urgent? Is it life-threatening? Can they recover from this? What's the condition of the group? What time of day is it? What's the terrain you're going to need to carry through? Where will you go? What resources do you have? What resources do you need? What's the weather like? What will the weather be like? And what's your means of communication? Once you've answered all those questions, you can start to formulate a plan on whether or not to evacuate. If you've chosen to evacuate, what's the method of evacuation? Can the person walk? If so, will they be able to walk themselves out to meet the paramedics at a road? Do you need to stabilize someone and leave them in place to have a helicopter come to you? Whatever you decide, know that you are the eyes and ears on the scene. So you need to communicate very effectively with EMS what is that you need. Should you possibly send some runners in advance to meet up with the paramedics to bring them to where you are? Essentially, whatever it is that you plan, you need to communicate that exceptionally well to the EMS so that they can execute the plan as flawlessly as possible alongside of you.